There's another little one over on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean that's doing pretty well. So maybe we could talk a little bit about them, the Airbus. And they've certified, and the A321 XLR is flying, and they're doing a lot of R&D and other activities. So what are your thoughts with Airbus?
Look, they have their own challenges. Getting airplanes out the door. A lot of those, this has been undercovered probably. And I'm sure Airbus would be the first to remind people of this, but a lot of the delivery challenges and supply chain challenges they're having today actually were because of the Boeing strike, right? Because it affects all sorts of suppliers down the chain. A lot of those suppliers are also suppliers for Airbus. Specifically, I'm thinking of like seats. But look, the Airbus sales motto over the last 4 years has been the exact same sales motto that GE has, which is at least we're not them, right? And it works, right? I mean, the same thing, right? Just make sure that somebody else is having challenges, and there are no serious problems at Airbus. They're doing their thing. The XLR has finally certified. I say finally, but I mean it's kind of within the normal realm of aircraft certification delays. There were some challenges. The engineers dealt with them. Here we are. Um, they continue to work on, like you said, engineering projects for 50 freighter. There are talks of some other projects and some other programs down the line. I think we're definitely going to see a slowing down in general in the industry of new technology and new products, for better or for worse. Airbus could potentially be the exception to that, depending on how aggressive they want to be. But remember that Airbus and Boeing are Batman and Joker. They hate each other, but they cannot live without one another. I'm not going to say which one's which, but the last thing Airbus wants is Boeing not being there, and the last thing Boeing wants is Airbus not being there. They do need a duopoly is a very very powerful thing. Monopolies won't sustain. So, I mean, more of the same from Airbus, which increase production rates. They keep revising down for I would call them industry reasons, where Boeing has more kind of internal reasons for that.
Yeah, I think just to add on the Airbus note, one for the listeners or viewers that haven't read it, Courtney put out a really interesting report a few weeks ago now, I think, on the A321 XLR and just the market demand and size for that aircraft. As you said, Peter, the plane's delivering. I think Aer Lingus just took delivery of two on the same day, which is pretty interesting. And we've already seen Aer Lingus operate or announce new routes with the type going to Indianapolis. Comes to mind. I think they're going to use it to Minneapolis even. Iberia just started flights from Madrid to Boston. So, it'll be really interesting transatlantic airplane where airlines decide to use them. Also, similarly in South America, are there thinner markets that previously with wide body aircraft didn't make sense, but now makes sense from an economic perspective with a narrow body where you can get some element of a premium cabin in there mixed in, but have the benefits of a narrow body airplane. So it'll be really interesting to see how that evolves and how that compares to the success of the 757 and what the 757 was for back in the day, the likes of Continental initially, but Delta, United now, American, even TWA at one point used them all transatlantic. Northwest too, before the merger as well.
Should do a quick round of predictions to see what's our biggest, like, what do we think is going to happen in 2025, and what are the big ticket items that we feel are going to materialize. Courtney, you want to start?
Oh, I got to make my predictions first. Okay, I think one of the big trends for 2025 are going to be low fuel prices. Even though they have not been high, and what that all means for sustainability. I think my prediction is that 2025 is going to be a challenging year for sustainability but that will only increase the discussion, right? The volume of discussion on it, like the frustration in progress that will be driven by lower fuel prices and the economic incentive to do that. I think I'm already noticing a shift in that, and it may just be one of the things that we have to go through to get to where we are. But it feels like we're entering that type of period.
All
Do
right, I'll
fuel
go.
surcharges increase at the same time as fuel prices go down in 2025?
Yeah, well, by the airlines, you mean like on like a
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, like Air Canada was always the best at that. Like, wait a minute, the price of oil went down and fuel surcharge. How does? And by the way, it all adds up to like the same fare because they have to compete on that. Yeah, I see what you're doing there.
Let me hop in real quick and just also want to give a shout out to my friends Rob Morris at Cerium, Stu Hatcher, and Jack Ambrose at IBA. Both of them, although they're separate, they've done some really interesting webinars. Cerium put one out last week, and both of them have some fleet forecasts and so forth. I think the one thing Courtney talked about, fuel. I think if you looked at non-fuel costs, right, they are increasing, and inflationary pressures are definitely there. I think some of that will reduce and come under control. Airline financial performance has been strong. It's has it more or less plateaued or stabilized? It's still early in the cycle to say, and it's definitely better than where we were at in 2019 pre-COVID, but it's probably not as strong as it was than 2023. I think more broadly, though, it's a little bit like what Courtney said about Boeing, which is just like no news. It feels, absent something geopolitical or an external shock or something, that in a lot of ways it might be much of the same. The macro themes are there and constant. And so if you look out at the horizon, I don't know that changes all that much over the years. Now, that being said, in the same breath, this is the airline industry.